Welcome to the next Monday, the next stream, and another pretty chill day, at least for me. Hopefully it was for you as well. Hope nothing or everything went fine over the weekend. Hope you were able to enjoy your weekend. And we're back at it again with another quick sketch, of course. So I think we should go right into it, and then we can then immediately move on to today's topic. Let me close my unnecessary windows. Oh, of course, I grabbed Streamlabs for my phone so I can see every notification if there's any. So, okay, hold on, I'm gonna pull up my feed. Okay, perfect. I think wait, am I? Okay, hold on, I have to log in. Shouldn't take too long. There you go. Oh, of course. There you go. Yes. Okay. So today, of course, first things first, we need our quick sketch. And then we can move on to today's topic, which you should see in the title. Let me oh, I forgot one crucial window. Hold on. Chill music for a chill day. Okay, I'm almost done. Don't worry, I'm almost done. And there it is. Perfect. Okay. So put that over there, and now I'm ready. Okay, so let me switch to my good old display capture scene. And there you can see the random number generator, the deciding factor on what we'll use for today's quick sketch. Let me see. We have 3 left. We have a vegetables, we have a CGI moon, and a vase statue. Let's see what we get. 1, 2, 3. In 3, 2, 1, go. 2. So we get the CGI moon. Ooh, okay. Nice. Let's see. Is it in blend file or a... It's a zip, of course. Let's see. What is it? It is... Oh, another folder. Okay. It's a object. OBJ. Okay. Perfect. Let me switch back to this scene right there. And we can start. Let me import the object. Let me close that window. I don't need that anymore. And we can go over to the import option. Import my OBJ, which is right. Excuse me, I had to sneeze for a second. Hold on, it's right there. In my 3D database, we have only 2 left after this one, so 2 more days until we're free and we can do whatever we want. Okay, it's not like I don't like using those objects, but if you're doing the same, like if you're doing like if you use this, like if you have something you have to use in a quick sketch, this kind of limiting, so not having to do that will definitely be a relief, and you can just do whatever, or we can do whatever we want. There it is. Okay, perfect. So first things first, let me put that, make that smaller. Let's see, it's just a sphere, of course, because it's a moon. Let's see if there's a material on it. Pretty shiny moon. Let's see. Doesn't seem like there's a material. Nope, there's not. Okay, well, it shouldn't take too long to put on. It's still too big though. Let's make it just 2 meters wide. And there you go. Okay, perfect. So first of all, of course, we need the textures. The textures should be too hard to put on. We have color and we have something else. I guess we'd use that. Let's see. There it is. That's the moon in its full glory, 2 meters wide. Yeah, so once we're starting, I think the first thing I'm going to do is implement a bump map, because I don't think this texture is really used, like we can't really use that texture for anything. Let's see. Okay, wait, is that a what is that map? Is it a bump map? It kind of looks like one. Yeah, I think it's a bump map. Oh, perfect. Okay, so let's put that in there as well. So we have a bump map actually. Perfect. We put that into, of course, a bump node, color into height and normal into normal. And we have our bump map. Perfect. Looks kind of choppy in here. Let's see what it looks like in rendered view. If we can even see it, because we don't have, oh, we do have light. Do we? No, I deleted it. But I think we can, yeah, we can see some nice bumps in there. Perfect. Okay. I think we're ready. I think we are ready. So let me pull up my timer. Timer's ready. And I am ready. Hopefully you are as well. Yep, I'm ready. So quick sketch. Oh, hold on. Quick sketch number 36. We'll start in 3, 2, 1. Oh, hold on. Which? Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. 30 minutes. Let's go. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is, let's see, what do we want to do with this? We could. Oh, I have an idea. Let's see what that looks like. What if we just pull up a cube, make that bigger, put that. Hold on, before I do that though, make it smaller again, then move it up by 1. So the pivot point is exactly at the bottom face, and then we can go in here, duplicate this moon. We use both, of course. We go into Boolean, use a Boolean modifier, set that to object right there, and then difference. Hold on, I have to, I guess, adjust that. Let's remove this, or make this see-through, so we see if it's actually cutting the object. It doesn't seem like it. So wait, why are there so many? Hold on. Oh my god, why is it so dense? I mean, okay. Okay, so, okay, let's see. What if we move this up? Oh, there it is. Perfect. Now we do the same for the other sphere, but we say not cutting, like chopping off where they're intersecting, we say intersect. Then select this cube, so only the stuff that's inside of the cube will stay. So we split our sphere. Perfect. First half, second half, and we have our modifiers applied. And we have split our moon. We can now First of all, go to material preview, and then we can move this up maybe by 1.5. Oh, that's quite a lot. Let's say one what no, okay, here 1.1. hold on, no, move it up by 0.5. there you go. Move it down by 0.5. oh, not up, hold on. Gotta get in the groove again. Negative 0.5. there you go, just so we can see what's going on, and then we can adjust the shader. Let's see, what do we want to do with this? So we could probably either transform it to something completely different, or we could use this like as how it like looks like right now. I'm kind of in the camp of transforming it to something different. I have an idea. Let me reverse this. Actually, we don't need to reverse necessarily. We can maybe move it down by negative 0.5, 0.25. Let's say 0.4. Move this one up by 0.4, so they're pretty close together, but not like fully together. We then grab a UV sphere. We're gonna do something pretty abstract for this one. Rotate it by 90 degrees. Perfect. And then we go in here, say Boolean. This object right there. Of course, nothing happens. Do the same in here. Boolean. Say yes, I want to have this, and then we move this closer, maybe by 1. Let's see. That's too far. 0.5. That's not enough. Let's say 0.6. Yeah, 0.6 looks pretty good. Let's make this a wireframe so we can see through it, just to check if it's actually cutting that out. Perfect. So next up we can duplicate this because we're gonna use it again. Then we make it smaller, maybe something like this, and then we go into here, call that sun, and move it down here. Sphere Boolean. Go to the sun, we make this a solid object again. Solid. And then we want to give it a shader. Let's see. Let's make this one non-clickable and also like hide it so we don't see it. And then we can make a new material for this sun right there. What we'll do first is make a new texture. We use a noise texture. I want to get these like lava-y textures that you can see on the sun in here. So we use a noise texture, put on some distortion, make it bigger, and there you can see some nice distortions already. We can probably even add some detail, not too much though, but I think this already looks pretty good. And then we can just use a color ramp. Oh, not a clamp, we use a color ramp and change the color, maybe to something very bright orangey, something like that. Maybe this one can be darker, and then this one can be a little bit lighter. Change this saturation, pull it over here, so we have this nice orange color. We can then remove this shader because we need a emission shader. Put that in there. We can't see anything because we have to plug it into the surface, and now it's a emission shader. Let's see what it looks like. Not too impressive just yet, but we'll still work on it. Let's see if we can add some, what would you call it? Some swirl around the sun. What if we go in here and use another sphere? For example, we can just go in here and duplicate this, scale it up. We go to material preview. We have the second sun, which we need a new material for. So we make a new one. We remove this part. And then we go to texture. And then first of all, we need another noise texture. Then next up, we need a color ramp. I want to make a mask first, so the swirl isn't everywhere. We use some distortion, not too much though. The scale can be a little bit smaller, not too small though. Detail should be a little bit higher. Roughness, just a little bit more. So we have, it looks like just a little bit rougher, of course. We then bump up the blacks a little bit, but crush the white as well. So we have this nice mask. We can then go in here and we use this as a mask for the shader. We mix a mission shader using a mix shader with a transparent shader. Put the transparency into the first one, I think, mission into the second, color into factor, and then plug it in. We can see nothing. Let's go to rendered view. Okay, it doesn't really look like how it's supposed to look. Let's see. Oh, maybe because we have to... Oh, no, hold on. We can see something, but it's not really what I wanted. I guess we have to switch them. There you go. Okay, perfect. We had effecto. We then move this maybe a little bit closer together. Doesn't do much. Okay. Oh, of course. So I guess if we move this more over here, we can see some... These swirls would get closer or like smaller. But I think this looks already pretty good. What I want to add though is first of all a subdivision surface modifier. Put that to 2, I guess. We then go over and add a displacement modifier. I want to displace this a little bit so it looks a little bit more natural, not like a perfect sphere around it. We have 20 minutes left, should be enough. Okay, now it's inside. Of course, we have to add a texture first. Let's use clouds, my favorite shader. This already looks kind of interesting, actually. But I think we're gonna first of all add some more subdivisions just to add, so we can have smaller details in there as well. Okay, perfect. This kind of looks like smoke around it, which looks pretty cool, but not really what I wanted. So let's go back to the shader and then maybe change the size. Okay, that's definitely too big. What about making it smaller? Kind of playing around now. That's way too big now. Looks more like spikes. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Depth can be higher. Okay, perfect. 24. Okay, now we can go back to the strength in the displacement modifier to make it just a little bit less intense. And there you go. Perfect. Now we can go in here and make this glowing in a nice orange or yellowy color. Or maybe even red. I think we're gonna keep this color more like to a nice yellow. Then we can make the sun a little bit darker. I think that should fit quite well. Okay. Oh, that's pretty dark. Maybe a little bit less. Okay. Make this one even darker, more reddish. Okay, so we have a nice distinction between the two. Let's go back into here. I want to adjust the texture a little bit. Maybe add a little bit more scale. Or maybe even less scale. Let's see. I think something like that looks pretty good. Okay, so now let's work with the moon. I want to make this moon, or first of all, what I want to do is go and save it real quick so we're not losing our progress. Of course, very important. This quick sketch. A day 36. We call it the same. Okay, save it, and there you go. So, first of all, what I want to do is this. I want to add one more thing to this. Let's see, what if we go in here, make a solid. Oh, that looks interesting. And we add a torus. Oh, what's up? Logical. Oh my god, blue on blue is really helpful. Hold on. Logical horn 167. Thanks for the follow. Thank you. What do you mean with logo, or what's your? What are you thinking? What are you thinking? Okay. Let's make this smaller. Actually, this radius should be smaller as well. Something similar to this, maybe a little bit bigger. Oh, well, let's make it just like this, bigger. Then move it over here. Hope you're enjoying your day so far. Mine was pretty chill. Let's see what it looks like. I want to make this pretty abstract, so it's gonna be pretty, like, I don't know, I'm just adding some few shapes to see if there's anything like coming out of it. Go to world, put that color into color, and let's add an HDRI just so we have some color in here, or some lighting, at least something in there. Let's change the background. Let's then add another background, shader, mix shader, background into shader, and then light path, camera ray into the factor. So we separate both the background and the lighting from each other. Okay, perfect. I have 15 minutes left, and then I'm gonna look at your link. I want to finish this in that time, and then I'm done with my quick sketch, and then I'll look at your logo. Let's see. First of all, I want to decrease. Oh, actually, no. I want to decrease the strength of the HDRI. Right now, I'm just so every day I'm making a quick sketch. I'm at quick sketch day 36. This one is. Which means I have 30 minutes. I give myself 30 minutes to come up with something. Right now I have like added a moon 3D like object that I downloaded from I don't even know what it's called. Sketchfab right now. Yeah, Sketchfab. So when I do it on stream, I give myself like, I challenge myself and add a randomly, like I've downloaded like a bunch of 3D scanned assets, and like for example this moon, and which means I use a random number generator to choose one of them, and I have to include that object into my quick sketch. I'm almost done. I have only almost used all of them. I think there's only 2 left now, and then after that I'm just gonna freestyle it. Yeah, so those are just like daily sketches to get me starting, get the stream starting, and then I'll go into my main topic of the day. I need a, of course, shade color. Let's use gamma. Just want to make it, oh, that's definitely the wrong way. Make it a little bit darker. Okay, the moon could be darker as well, I think. So we go into object. Yeah, I've been using Blender now for 2 years, which is probably why I know as much as I do. Color ramp, just make it darker now. Let's put it like to something like, this should be a pretty dark moon. I want to keep the structure though, so we could probably also reduce the roughness or make it higher, because it looks kind of glossy right now. That's better. Okay, then I want to add a emission shader to this one as well. make it shiny. You can never go without, like, you can never have enough emission. Okay. Let's maybe put the camera right there first, and then we can still adjust. Okay, camera. Let's look at the camera. Actually, I want to have it like somewhere over here. What we can do though is of course use my good old plane axis focus to make it easier. Damn track, focus empty, negative Z, and then we can move it over here. Ooh. Maybe a little bit rotated, that actually looks pretty good already. Then move it more over here, so the focus is more in there. We can maybe even put this to something shallower, so we can have more of the, like, the field of view is bigger. Let's see. Okay, put this to smooth. Actually, we have to make this also smooth, otherwise the boolean looks kind of choppy. There you go. Make it smaller. Okay, that looks pretty good so far. Let's make a depth of field as well. We can just use the sun object as our depth of field object. Focus object sun right there. F-stop can be, let's see what it looks like right now. Okay, I'll keep it 2.8 for now. Let's change the color of this. I want to make this pretty funky, so I'll put it to something more, let's see, yeah, something like this maybe, and then let's remove the HRI. I'm not quite sure if I'm convinced that I want to use it. Let's make this sun, the emission, like the power higher. Put that strength to 10 maybe even 50. Okay, that looks better. And then we can go in here and add a little bit more, like a few more lights, manually adding light. As you can see right there, for example, just to accentuate the structure of this moon a little bit more. Okay, maybe make the radius a little bit bigger so the shadows are softer. Put it more over here, somewhere over here, and then we duplicate this, put it over here as well. And this one can be a little bit stronger. This will be the key light. A little bit stronger maybe even. 2000, and then we make it like the radius smaller. There you go. Okay. Okay, radius bigger maybe. Let's keep it pretty low. Okay. So I think what I'm gonna add, we have 9 minutes left, should be pretty good. What we could do though is duplicate this, then we use a displacement modifier to make it bigger. As you can see, it's already pretty big now. We can probably keep it like this. Can we even do what I want to do? I'm not quite sure, so let's not do it. I don't want to waste too much time. What I want to do though is maybe we could let's go in here and change the color of this one right there. Okay, just to get some more structure in there. Okay, we could probably bring in a light as well, just to light up the front a little bit so it's not completely dark. Welcome back. Just so we can see a little bit of that structure in the front as well. Let's make the background completely black, otherwise it looks kind of weird. you can't really distinguish the moon from the background, so I'll do that. And then what we can also do is bring in a texture for the background. We use a noise texture, put that into the color, and then we use a converter color ramp. Oh, put that in there. Then make this like, I want to make this stars, or make the texture look like stars. We have 7 minutes 35 left. Perfect. Bring this higher. We wouldn't have to use a noise texture. We can just use a Voronoi texture, my favorite texture, of course. Distance into color, mix shader. There you go. Oh, hold on, I want to use this actually. Make the randomness can stay the same. Scale has to be way higher though. There you go. We then use a color ramp, put that in there. Then we can move this higher, so only part of these dots will stay. We probably have to say invert though. We have to invert this, so we get some nice dots right there. We have to make it even more drastic, so we have just a few more dots left. That looks pretty good. Okay, let's save that real quick. We have 6 minutes left. Still looks kind of boring. We could probably change the color of this because the color scheme isn't really fitting right now. Let's see, what could we change with it? This one can probably be something more reddish. Then in here, we can change the color to something. Let's just apply a hue saturation in here. Change the hue. Let's see what we got. Nope, that's definitely not the right direction. Okay. Let's use that maybe, and then we can move this more to a purple. Okay. We could probably also change the lights back here. This one can probably stay white, but I want to change this to a different color. Go to the light settings, change the color. Let's see, what do we have here? Oh, a nice red maybe, something like this. Okay, that looks pretty good. Maybe change the brightness to more like 300. Okay. 5 minutes left. This one can probably, let's see, do we want to change this? Maybe, yeah, something like this blue looks pretty good. Okay, next up. I kind of want to render this real quick just to see what it looks like with a glare filter. So let's do that real quick. Put that to 50%. Put that to F10. Render result. And then render it real quick. There you go, shouldn't take too long, hopefully. It has quite a few. Oh, of course I have to remove the sphere from the render. There you go. Do it again. Okay, perfect. That's the base. I probably have to make this like smaller because it looks pretty big right now. Pretty hefty. Let's add a displacement modifier just to make it smaller. There you go, something more like that maybe. Let's make it maybe a little bit smaller, more like this. Render it again. We have 4 minutes left. Time is dwindling. We should be good. Then we go in here, use the render compositor. First of all, what I want to do is of course use denoise to remove all the noise. And then filter, glare filter, put that to fog glow, threshold 0.1 maybe. Okay, that looks pretty good. Next up, what I want to do is this one can probably be a little bit brighter, the outside circle or like atmosphere, whatever you want to call it. So we go in here, put this maybe to 5. Okay. What if we go in here and make this super small? No, that looks weird. Okay, let's keep it like this. Maybe a little bit small. Oh, what we could do though Just go in here, go to solid. I want to see what it looks like. This one has to be smaller. I mean, hidden for now. Let's make this flat. I want to add more subdivisions. Let's make it 2, should be enough. We then use another displacement. Use the same texture. Put the strength down. Just to add a little bit more texture to this sphere as well. There you go. Perfect. We go back to F5. See the rendered view. Save it real quick. I want to add one more thing maybe. Let's see. Oh, we could... do I want to keep the background? Let's see what it looks like without the background. The background is kind of distracting because it's so much like white dots. What if we remove this? Oh, hold on. Something more like this maybe. And then we can bring in a UV sphere, make it really, really small. Let's bring it to F5. Hold on, solid view. Move this over here somewhere. Back here. There you go. And then we say, make a new shader. This will be a very bright star. So make a new one. Remove this. Shader emission. We can keep it white. Put it to 50 maybe. 50 should be good. Maybe even a little bit smaller. There you go. We have 1 minute 30 left. What can we do something more? We can probably shift the focus a little bit more over here. So it's more in the center. I think that looks better. And there you go. One minute left. Do we want to do something? We could probably add one more. Let's just duplicate this, put this over here. Make it a little bit smaller. And then even change this placement a little smaller. Yep, right there. Make this its own color. Maybe, let's see. Okay. Yeah. 29 seconds, not really much we can do now. Yeah, I guess that's it. Let's save it real quick. I'm really interested to see what it looks like with the... Oh, we could have... Okay, well, we could have added like a few particles in the air, but... Like, we have 4 seconds left. Let's stop this countdown. We don't need you anymore. And we will go over to rendering. Render, put that to 128. Put that to 100% render resolution. Save it, and then render. While this is rendering, I'll talk about what we're going to do today. Today we will... Or I'm going to show you, or we will create a procedural skin shader. Basically, we're going to create a skin shader that you can apply to any object, and it should theoretically work on everything. You could probably have, or you might have to adjust a few, like one node, if you just do different objects, but in general, like it's procedural. You don't need any textures, and I've set it up into multiple levels, basically from easy to hard or to expert, explaining how I set up the skin shader. So you have a shader that you can just save and then apply to any object you need it on, like for example characters. I use it on one of my characters, actually I think 2 of my characters, and yeah, it's not that hard and it shouldn't take too long. So Blender is done. We have to go to the compositor. Compositor is basically done, so let's save this image and then we can go over to Photoshop and finish the image. Quick sketch day 36. Perfect, save it, and we can go over to Photoshop. Okay, let me pull up my image. Nope, there it is. Nope, it's not right there. So many folders. Quick sketch right there. 36. Put that in there. There you go. Okay. Let's see what we can do with some Photoshop magic. First of all, I'm gonna use a color lookup filter just to see if we could maybe like channel. Look at this. That's just already way better. Let's look at a few more. Maybe we'll get something better even. So I usually use the color lookup filter to more accentuate the main part of the object that I want to accentuate. With this one, kind of like focusing on the very like saturated purplish pinkish colors, but I also want to keep the structure of the moon like visible. So I want to kind of like not use a filter that like crushes the blacks basically. So in the front you can't really see any detail anymore. I kind of want to use something more that makes the colors maybe pop more, but not bring in more dark tones or remove detail. So what we had before, I think it was like crisp winter, looked actually pretty good. So we're going to use this, and then we can adjust this a little bit more using something like lighting. Oh, that's too bright. You can see if we increase the lighting more, you can see we lose some detail in here, because this glow is going to be bigger and it's going to be just a solid color. As you can see right there, now we have no detail in the center anymore, and even in the sun. So we'll keep it like at 0. We don't need to increase it anymore. And do we need some gamma? Let's see, what if we increase? Okay, no, that's not gonna work. So we'll just keep it like this. Okay, we don't really need that then. Let's see if we can use this one. Some more saturation, some more depth. Does it change anything? Yeah, it gives it some more blue, which looks kind of good, so I'll keep it. One more thing I want to add, which will hopefully help this image quite a bit. Maybe two things. Let's see. Let's try the first one first, which is I have to add a color to this layer. Let's use this one. And then we use difference clouds. Oh, let's not change. Let's change the color. I kind of want to have white clouds, not actually blue clouds. Then we apply a cloud filter. We can then mix this with the original image. Let's see what looks the best. Okay. This one actually looks pretty good. Let's use this. We can see, so we get some nice like clouds around this ball, and also like around the lights in the center, which looks pretty cool. Maybe we can decrease the effect a little bit, not too much. Actually, we can keep it at 1. We can also get this nice chilling effect up here. It looks like it's like freezing, which looks pretty cool. And let's see, we could, yeah, one thing I want to add more is another render filter, which is the lens flare. We can bring this right down here into this very bright light, and you can see we get this nice lens flare. Let's see what looks best. This looks pretty good. Either this one or this one. I think I'm kind of thinking this one. So we have to reduce the brightness though. Or actually this one you can see like the flare a little bit more. So I think I'm gonna use the first one. Yeah, I think I'm gonna use it like this. We could, I think that looks pretty good. So now we can save it, and then it's done. So let's save this Photoshop file. Oh, there you go. And save it. Stream, nope, not in here. Go to my quick sketch folder. Quick sketches 36. There you go. Save it, and perfect. We're done. I can now post it. Of course, while this is getting posted, I'll play my month one highlight reel, if you want to call it that. Let me close this image. Let me switch back to Blender. And then we can start with the main topic. I have to transfer this image to my phone, of course. Let's do that real quick. I've also downloaded a few more soundtracks, some more stream beats, lo-fi tracks. So that's what we're gonna hear today. I've downloaded 2 more albums. I think there are like 4 more or something, so we definitely have enough to keep the stream interesting. Okay, I've transferred it, so now I'll upload it real quick. While this is going, I will let you watch this. Have fun. Welcome back. I'm uploading my quick sketch right now. It's I'm almost done. I'll be done in a few minutes. So usually, hold on. Usually when I upload my quick sketch, you just look like previously you were just watching me like upload it looking at my phone. So now for this, I basically, for the like transition period, I made a small like month one compilation that I can play while I'm uploading my stuff. So it's a little bit more interesting than just looking at me, looking at my face. So yeah, you can watch this, and then in a few minutes we can I'll go over to the next. Like I'll look at your link. It's just gonna loop, so it shouldn't take too long. One more, then I'm done. There you go. Okay, perfect. Nope. Let's move over. I'm back. I've finished my upload. Okay, perfect. So that, of course, right now it's looping, but I plan on doing this like every month. So I have like a full series of like compilations I can just play over and over, like one after each other. So at some point it shouldn't loop. Maybe even next month. Perfect. Let me open. Oh, let's look at the link first. Let me switch to my display capture. There you go. Okay, so I have your logo open. Of course, like, hold on. Okay, so I guess you want to like have something similar to this with your own like initials or something, I guess. Let me open up my file that or where I have created my skin shader. Oh, not in here, right there. Oh, wrong Blender version. Hold on. Quick sketch. Nope, not quick sketch. Open. Save it. Hold on. Let me just quickly save it. There you go, and then open. It is this one. Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. So first of all, of course, as you can see nothing. Today we're gonna talk about a procedural skin shader that you can basically just apply to any object, and then you have a like skin. If you, for example, make a character and you don't want to like create textures or anything, you can just create the shader and then apply it to anything you want. It's of course not perfect, but like if you want to make it perfect, I'm gonna like talk about that later as well. If you want to make this shader like actually like fully functional, you probably have to create some masks. It's not too hard, but of course like I've separated this tutorial or explanation in multiple levels, and the last step or last level would be to add like custom maps for stuff like, if you look at the material right now, you can see, hold on, it's loading. Oh, there it is. You can see we have this bump map on there, like these small pores basically. The only problem is that right now you can have, like, you have the same pores on the lips as well, and the lips have the same color of than like that the rest of the face has as well. So if you want to make stuff like the lips, give them a different color, you would probably have to add textures, but you don't really necessarily have to add or like retopologizes. You can just, or like to create a texture, you can also do it using vertex paint. Yeah, I've looked at your logo. I guess you wanna basically have something similar but with your own initials, I guess. Okay, so the weird thing is with the material preview that we get this weird blue, like this blue color effect in there. I don't know why that is, because if we go to rendered view, we cannot really see that. Can we? I guess that's just because of the mix between the white and the, like, the white hair and the like reddish like beige color, that it mixes like this. Yeah, I don't really know why it's displayed like that, but you don't really have to worry about that. So today we're gonna look at this. We're gonna start with just this part, how you can set up the basics. That's basically the first level of the skin shader. Then we will look at the color, how I set up this color to get these different like dots, for example, some like changes in the skin, so it not only looks like if we remove this right now, if we look at this without the texture basically that I applied to it, we can see no, like, everything is like a plain color. Adding this mix in there, we just get some more structure in there, which makes it look more realistic. We get some reddish, like veiny, like more red in there using a noise texture. We basically just use one noise texture, one for the veins or these red spots, and then also for these smaller black dots we use another noise texture. Yeah, of course everything's procedural because that's why I created, like, what I want to talk about today. I usually, when I created a character, I always thought I would have to create a texture with stuff like, for example, like the different color changes in here, making a texture for the skin color, then a texture for the lips and all that. But you can also just make it procedural. So then if you, for example, make a simple UV sphere, pull it over here, make it maybe a little bit smaller, and then you apply the same shader to it, which is skin. It's loading. You can see, as you can see right there, that's the skin shader in itself. We get also a bump map that is going to be level 3. And yeah, so with some pores in there, and then also some smaller or bigger like cuts, basically, just to make it a little bit more realistic, because the skin isn't perfect. So I added these smaller cuts. Yeah, so I usually work in Blender or 3D on stream, so I'm probably not gonna make it on stream. I don't know if I can do it off stream anyway, so I don't think I can do that for you. Sorry. The last thing I did in terms of logo or design was my own stream or like channel setup, I guess. Hopefully you can find someone though. They can do that for you, or you can learn it yourself. I mean, it's always nice to like learn something new, and yeah. So yeah, let's see. Let's look at a few more. Yeah, have a good one. See you. Take care. go to, maybe let's look at a cylinder, just to have a few more shapes, and we can look at them to see what the skin shader looks on those as well. Put that to, let's, smooth looks kind of weird on a cylinder. I would set up right now. Just weird to see a, yeah, so if you, like, I'm not only working with Blender, like, if you have any questions in terms of like using Photoshop or anything like that, you can always ask me as well, or like ask for feedback if you've made your own logo. I'm always open for that. Okay, let's look at a few more. Let's see what else do we have here. We could probably use a cube. I think there's a free trial version for 30 days that you could use. I think there's a free like test version of it. You might have to look that up. Otherwise, you can probably use GIMP as well. I think GIMP is the second best option. Or no, Affinity Designer, I think it's called. Something like, let me look it up real quick. Something Affinity. I think that's a free version that's similar to Photoshop. Affinity. There you go. It is called Affinity Designer. If you just Google Affinity, let me put the link in here. You can see that's basically, okay, there's a paid version, but I think there's also a free version. Let's see. There you go. There's Affinity Designer, that's more for graphical stuff, and then there's Affinity Photo. And there should be a test version. Let's see. Cost, yeah, there's a test version. I guess you can use it for 30 days. Nope. 90 days actually. So you can use it for 9 months, or I think Photoshop is also, there should be a test version for that as well. Oh yeah, well, just remove the last two. Like, if you remove the DE at the end, you should get to the get the English version. Okay. There you go. I think I'm logged in, so I can't see if there's a test version, but there should be. I think you can test Photoshop for 30 days as well. Yeah. So if you have any questions, or you want to have get some feedback, you can always ask me. Okay, let's see what they look like in rendered view. This also looks pretty good, in my opinion. Of course, quite big in terms of displacement and all that. But if you compare it to this one, for example, here the pores are smaller. That's just how I set up my mapping node, basically. The mapping node dictates how big this texture actually is. So if we then go in here, for example, and change the scale, we can see it gets smaller. So if you need it a little bit smaller, if it looks too big for you, you can just change that. And then of course it changes for everything, because all these objects have the same material applied to it. Let's switch to rendered view to see what it looks like. There you go. We can get some nice subdivision, subsurface scattering in there. Of course, if you want to change it to a different color, you can go in here and change the base color in here. And yeah, you can that's the vein color. And this is a mask, which we're going to use later. So that's what we're going to do today. Let me remove these. We can keep them. Okay. Let me drink something real quick and then we can start. Oh. Okay, I need some water. I forgot my water I'm gonna get something real quick. Hold on. Water. There you go. Yep. Okay, I'll be back in a few seconds. Okay, I'm back. No water break anymore. Please. Okay, perfect. So, I think I am ready. Hopefully you are as well. Time to receive some knowledge. Yeah, so what we're gonna do basically is now, first of all, look at the shader itself. I'm gonna repeat how I set it up one more time, and then we're gonna create or recreate this basically. Yeah, so I think we're gonna use this sphere to create the shader, because we can see it better on here rather than, for example, on here. I mean, we can see it if you could go close. The only problem is, I think it's easy to see on the sphere, so we're gonna use the sphere to create the shader. Let me see if everything's set up. Yep, looks good. Okay, perfect. So, as I said before, today we're gonna look at my procedural skin shader that I've created or like made for my own projects. If I, for example, wanna like have a character, or like let's see, if I make a new character, for example, and then look at, let's say this is the character, and I want to make this, like, I want to apply a shader to this so it not only looks like super flat. We bring in some subdivisions. You can see super flat right now. So if we want to make this look more human, add some like a shader to it. And we don't want to apply like any textures. We don't want to texture paint this. We just want to quickly get some skin on there. I've made this skin shader, which looks kind of weird right now. But I'll explain why it looks so weird and how it is set up. First things first, I'm going to tell you how it's like, what the setup is. So in the beginning, it might look kind of weird right now, but it's pretty basic or pretty simple. I'm going to split this into multiple levels. In the beginning, we're just going to look at this basic setup of this principled BSDF. We're going to like create this then together. First things first, what we're going to do is set up this principled BSDF, look at how it is set up. And then next up, we're going to look at the color textures that I've applied to it. So it looks a little bit more diverse. We don't just have a flat color. We have like stuff like, if you go to her, we can see some veins underneath, which just adds more realism to the whole scene. Also, we have these dots, these marks basically, that just make the skin look a little bit more interesting, a little bit more realistic. And you can of course add more to this. I'm gonna tell you in the end what you can do to make this even more detailed, even more like look even better. But this is the basic setup, and then of course you can expand if you want. It's procedural, so you can always like just add, remove, or just, for example, just even keep like the basic setup of this. Of course, that's very basic. You can't really see any, like, the color is just a plain skin color. If you look at it from the rendered view, it doesn't look really special. But then if you add, for example, the color first, you can see we get some changes. Of course, with the noise, you can't really see it. If we go to material preview though, you can see what changed. If we mute that, you can see first it's just flat, and then adding this adds these veins in there just to give this the skin and the color a little bit more structure. And then next up, I also added these dots right there. That looks kind of washed out right now, but in the end, if we, for example, reduce or like scale the texture down, it looks pretty good. Of course, you can adjust the bumps as well, or the dots, but that's the basic setup. Then of course the third step is we're gonna add a bump node, or 2 bump nodes. So we're gonna combine 2 to not only add pores. Of course, every skin has pores, so we're gonna add those, as you can see right there, just small dots basically. And then we're also going to add like bigger cuts that just make the skin not perfectly just smooth, but add like smaller cuts into the skin to give it some more character, make it look a little bit more damaged and more like diverse or like complex. And that's basically the third level. And then next level would be how you can make this look even better. I made this shader basically to not only have to not have to create textures for stuff like the color. For example, if you want to make like a completely customized texture or like skin shader for a character, you would probably go in here and make your color map or color texture for the lips and all that, and then you would make a bump map, a custom bump map with texture painting, and also stuff like a glossy map, a specularity map, and a subsurface scattering map. Yeah, we're going to talk about how you can do that later without having to use texture painting, but you can do that right on any model because it doesn't require good UVs or good good setup, like a good UV setup. It just requires your model to have vertices, which it should have. So yeah, let's look at the first part of this shader. The first part is going to be a principal BSDF. So to make a new one, what we can do is we can compare these two. We don't need this window right now, so we can move this to another shader editor. That's not the shader editor. There it is. We can then say this is where we're getting our infos from, and then we're going to create a new shader over here. So we just, for example, for this monkey, let's make a new monkey so we can compare these two, and then we're going to give this one the new shader, and then we're going to set it up together. Let's move this over here just to get rid of it. We don't need to see it, and there you go. So first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to make a new shader by just going in here and hitting this plus button or duplicate button. We can remove the shader first. So this would be like your base setup, no shader applied. This is the base shader, nothing, basically just white. And then if you hit new, we get your basic setup, and the principal BSDF is already applied. We have to make a few changes, of course. First of all, we want to change the color. Of course, we're going to apply a color later. But if you just want to get to level 1 of this skin shader without complex textures on it, you can just go in here. And usually for skin, you're looking for something quite like desaturated, maybe something in the 0.3 range maybe, and then maybe even less, and then something in this range of orange to yellow, or reddish, orange reddish maybe. Something like this looks pretty good. It may be even too saturated, so we can go to something more like 0.2, or maybe mix between those. 0.25 should look pretty good. So that's the base. You can, of course, if you want to make your character like more red, you can go more into the red zone, maybe even add a little bit more saturation, but not too much though. The base should be pretty desaturated, because if you look at the skin itself is pretty desaturated. The main color comes from the blood underneath that just shines through the skin. So we're gonna keep it like this, so pinkish. Of course, if you want to make it like black, you can also do that, like something. As you can see right there, you can just, if you have your base color and you want to make it darker, you can just use this slider up here from white to black, and then just move it down depending on how like black you want to have it. I'm going to keep it white though, so we can see the changes a little bit better. And then we're going to create, we're going to change a few settings in this, because we want to set the basis of this one first, and then we can add some more textures. So what we need, of course, for skin is, first of all, we're going to go from top to bottom, and the first setting we can set is the subsurface scattering. Subsurface scattering is basically, hold on, I can show you what it is. If I pull up my phone right there, as you can see, my flashlight, it should work. Let's see if it works. Subsurface scattering is basically, as you can see right there, you can see like the light shining through my fingers, and you can basically see the red blood through my fingers, which is basically subsurface scattering. So the light gets like penetrates the skin, gets through to inside, like to the inside of my fingers, then bounces around in the finger basically, and then exits in like different directions, which means it not only like exits in your direction, it would also exit like in my direction, but the most part would be like get through the finger. And then you can see, as you can see right there, not only like the white from the flashlight, but you can also see the red from the underlying blood vessels that get lit up, and then the light that those like the red light from the red skin cells will then exit through the back of my fingers, and you can see my fingers will get a little bit reddish. You can test that on yourself, of course, and that's basically what subsurface scattering does. So to change that, we go to the subsurface scattering, and if we just put this, for example, to 1, you can see it gets really white, and that's not really what we're looking for, because of course, as I said before, the skin is this nice base color, this pretty desaturated, and then there's this underlying color, the blood basically, which we can change with this subsurface color. The subsurface radius isn't really necessary to change, so we'll just leave that with the basic settings, and we go to subsurface color and put this to a very saturated, not too saturated though, maybe something like 0.75. And then we change the darkness as well. It should be a little bit darker, not too dark though, maybe like let's put it to 0.75 as well. So we have this nice saturated red color. If we go to rendered view now, we can see it's like you can't really see any base color anymore. That is because we've set the subsurface scattering to 1. Basically all the light just exits, like enters and then exits, and you can't really see the surface color anymore. So to reduce this, we can put this, for example, to 0.5, and you can see we get some more, like we get a mix between these two colors, the surface color and the subsurface color. But of course, if you want to simulate, for example, this effect of subsurface scattering some more, if we add a point light, make this smaller and put this behind the ear, you can see the light shines through the ear and gets lit up in this yellow color. That is because if you, for example, then move the subsurface more over here, you can see more and more light shines through. If we pull this more over here, we can see less light shines through. That's basically the effect that subsurface scattering does. If you, for example, have a light coming from the right side and it hits your nose, and then on the left side you can see a little bit of a red tint just because the light exits on the other side and colors the skin basically red, which you can see right there. This ear is way more red than the other side, and we want to find a good mix between the surface color and the base color. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here, and what I used for my shader for this one is I used a subsurface value of 0.1. You can probably adjust it a little bit. Of course, you get more subsurface scattering depending on where you are on the body. If you have stuff like bones right underneath the skin, there's going to be less subsurface scattering. If you have stuff like your lips, for example, or your nose, where there's just like loose like tissue or soft tissue, there's going to be more penetration going on. So in places like the ears also, you'll have more subsurface scattering, but a good mix or a good starting point is 0.1. Next up we have metallic. We don't need metallic because skin isn't metallic. If we put that up, you could see it just gets like metallic, of course. Skin is no metal, so we'll put it to 0. Next up we have the specularity. If you look at the comparison between this skin shader and this one, you can see the value. I put it to 0.3. The specularity is basically if you shine a light on this object, you can see it, like part of the light bounces off, and you can see it in the camera. If we reduce the specularity, we can see there's less and less light coming, or you can see less and less reflection. That is because specularity determines the amount or the power, the amount of light that is going to be reflected, or how much is going to be absorbed. If we put that to 1, that basically means all the light that hits the surface also bounces off. Usually when you have a surface, the light, like part of the light will be absorbed by that object. But if you, for example, have a mirror, all the light will be reflected. So meaning we have a mix between specularity and roughness. Roughness tells you basically how glossy a object will be. If we put it to 0, you can see it's basically like a very smooth surface, like a mirror basically. And then the specularity tells you how much of that that light that's hitting the surface will be thrown back. So basically if we have it at 1, you can see all light will be thrown back. If you put it to 0, there's no light coming back. Although there should be reflections, there are none, because we say it's rough. It's like the roughness is at 0, so it's completely shiny, but it absorbs all the light that is like entering or like hitting the surface. For skin, a value of 0.3 should be pretty good, because most of the light that's hitting the surface will be absorbed, but not all of it, of course. So we'll keep it at 0.3, and then the roughness also we'll put it at 0.35. I think I put it. So that's basically the same value we have in here. We have 0.3 and 0.35. The glossiness comes from just from what do you like oiliness or like wetness of the skin. Basically all like your skin always like produces like oils and like fluids, which then exit through the pores and then like lie on your skin, which then create this glossiness on your skin. If you for example want to make a wet character, you would just pull this roughness down and you get a little bit more like roughness, and now it looks wetter basically. We'll keep it for the base, for the starting point at 0.35. So specularity tint we don't have to change, we'll just leave it at 0. Next up we have anisotrophic. Anisotrophic is also just for metal shaders. Skin is no metal because of that. We're just gonna leave it at 0. what anisotrophic basically does, it changes the metallic reflections on it, which is like maybe a little bit too complex to explain. I'm not really quite sure how it really works, but if you just look up anisotropy, or anisotropy, you'll see a few examples which should explain what it does. We're gonna leave it at 0 because there's no metal shader, so we don't need anisotropy. We don't need anisotropic rotation as well, and we don't need sheen. The next thing we need though is, of course, the normal socket. We're gonna talk about that later when we add our pores, but that's the basic setup basically. If we now go to rendered view, we can see it already looks kind of like skin. If we let it render for a second, we can see we have a few reddish spots through the subsurface scattering. It's quite shiny on the edges. You can make it more shiny if you want 0.25, for example. If your character is more greasy, basically, you would reduce the roughness. But something like 0.35 is pretty good for a base setup. That's basically level 1. You've completed level 1. Good job. You basically created the basic shader setup or finished the settings in the principal BSDF. Now we're gonna add a few procedural textures, 2 noise textures to be exact, to alter or make the skin color a little bit more interesting. First thing what we're gonna add is these dots that basically I don't even know what you would call them, just like these marks. Hold on, I want to see what it's called. Thermal? Oh wait, what? Birthmark, of course. If you want, we're gonna create the birthmarks. So how we do that is just, first of all, we need one node at first, which will be in texture. If you want to open up that window, you just press Shift A, and then texture, we go to noise texture. We have our first noise texture. If we then if you have Node Wrangler enabled, you can just press Shift and Control. It's an add-on. You can add to your Blender file by going to Edit, Preferences, and then going to Add-ons. You can then look up Node Wrangler and then just enable it, and then you have Node Wrangler. If you have that enabled, you press Shift and Control, and then you can see your texture. Of course, the texture is pretty big right now, so we're gonna adjust a few settings in here. This is basically the same setup we have in here, just these settings of course are tailored to what you can change with this noise texture. First of all, we're going to change the scale. Let's look at the shader in here so we can reproduce the same shader exactly. We have started with this one. That's the birthmark texture. We've put the scale to 4. So we'll go in here and put the scale to 4. That's pretty big, of course. The birthmarks would be pretty huge right now. And that is because I've applied a mapping texture, or I mean a mapping node to this texture. What the mapping node does is basically tells the texture how it applies itself on your character. So, or on the object that you've applied the shader to. If we, for example, go to the is it the UV editor, and then we go in here, we can then see, hold on, is it the UV editor? Yep, it is. You can see we have a basic layout of this monkey. That's basically all the faces you can see right there are laid out in this 2D view right there. This is of course already set up, but if you have like your own custom object, so for example like this, and we go in here, oh, hopefully it's not crashing. Okay, perfect. We can see it's just all over the place. That is because I haven't like retopologized this. So, oh, actually this one's retopologized, but I'm not using the retopologized version, so it looks kind of like completely like weird. So we can't really use the UVs itself to create our own textures, which is why we're going to create our procedural texture. As you can see, this is basically the setup we have, and the mapping texture explains or tells the noise texture how it's going to be applied to this grid basically. So if you go in here, right there, this is the mapping texture, and we can see there's another texture applied, I mean another node applied to it, which is the texture coordinate node, which basically tells the mapping node how the texture should be applied to the object. We have different options. We have generated, we have normal, UV, object, camera, window, and reflection. The most important ones that I use mostly are generated, UV, and object. UV we can't use because, as I said before, the UVs aren't set up properly, so we can't use UV. Generated is basically generated is the same that you can see right there. The basic setup is generated. So you hold on, where's my node? Right there. If you have nothing attached to the vector socket, that's basically generated. So what we're going to use for this shader is the object socket or object plug. We're going to put it into the vector socket, and then we use a type point, and that's basically what we're going to plug into the noise texture into the vector socket. If you have node wrangler enabled, you can just go to your node where you want to plug it into, click it so it's marked, and then press Ctrl T, and you can see we have our mapping node applied. If you want to do that manually, you can just go into your add section or your add window, go to vector mapping to get your mapping node, and then you can go into input texture coordinate to get the second texture coordinate node, put the generated or like object what we're going to use into the vector socket, and then the vector of the mapping node into the vector of the noise texture, and we have the same setup. So to do it one more time, left clicking to mark it, Ctrl T, and there you go. We've applied it the same way. Of course, we have to change this then from object to vector. I mean from generated to vector. And now we have the same setup. Sounds like you have to learn Photoshop. Yeah, I mean the beginning shouldn't be too bad. It's always nice to learn something new. Always nice to have another skill you can just use, especially if you want to do more with, like, I don't know, like design or anything. You can just do it yourself. Okay, so now we have our basic setup for this. For like the coordinates are like now applied. We can pull this back because we're going to use these coordinates basically for all our textures, and now we can adjust this noise texture some more. Let me go back to the shader setup, and we have 2 windows. We actually need only 1, so we can probably just move it to the side or bring it back to this view, and we can adjust these settings some more. If we want to compare it, we can see. Let's see, what do we have here? We have just everything to 0. That is because if we look at it right now, we have some weird blobs, and like we have a few, like it's not as soft as I want it to be. So what we're gonna do is just put the detail to 0, so everything is really soft. The roughness as well, just to make it as soft as it can be. and we don't have any distortion, so we'll keep it at 0. That's basically the first setup. Of course, it's still black and white, so to change the colors, we use a converter color ramp node. Put that in here, and now we can change the color for the blacks and whites. As you can see right here, the color ramp basically works like it gives you the range of all the colors in the texture, and then you can change, for example, how many, like this value right there, right under the minus button should be black, for example. You can just move your handle over here, and now everything in the range from black to white in this range right there is completely pure black. As you can see right there, we have these nice dots now. That's what we're going to use to create the birthmarks basically. So what we're going to do is we're going to create our mask, which we will then or not a mask, but a texture with a few birthmarks on them. If we look at the texture right there, we've pushed the whites basically all the way over here, and we kept the black pretty close to the beginning. So we're going to recreate that. We're just going to move this a little bit closer over here, and then we can move this white all the way over here. So we just have a few spots left, as you can see right there. If you want to make your birthmarks a little bit more distinct and more defined, you can just move this black over here, and now they're more like dots, actual like defined dots. I want to keep them pretty soft, so I'll leave mine like over here, maybe even a little bit less. Let's put it to 0.1, and the other one will be at 0.3, or let's put it to 0.35. I mean 0.25. There you go, and we have some nice dots on there. No, I don't really know who could help you. I don't know any people that yeah, I don't know who could help you. I'm sorry. So next up, we have our basic setup in terms of black and whites, and now we want to change this black and white texture to a color, like skin color texture. The easiest way would be the white would be like the base color that we have set up right there. So we just select the handle, and then we click on this white bar down here, and select this pipette icon, and then select the color, and we have our base color set up. Of course, if you want to change the color of the birthmarks as well, you can leave them like black or brownish. I'm gonna make mine like a little bit more brownish, pretty desaturated though, maybe a little bit darker, something like that. And we can see I've kept, like in there, my birthmarks are a little bit more gray. These ones I'm just gonna make like brownish, just to have a little bit of a difference, so I can show you how you can customize your skin shader on your own. If you want to, for example, do that, make those, I don't know, blue if you want. You can do that. That's how you change the first texture. So we have our basic color texture now with the base color and a few birthmarks. The next thing we're going to add are this veiny texture, which means we're going to need another noise texture. So we can basically just duplicate this, Shift D, move it over here, and then we need also another color ramp. And of course, if you, for example, look in here, you can see, or if you compare to like this character with this monkey, you can see the pores on her are way smaller than they are on this character. That is because of the object mapping. If you want to make the pores on this character or on this monkey smaller, because you want to like make it smaller, you just go to mapping, hold left click, slide over all the X, Y, and Z axis sliders, and then just move it to a side while still holding to change the scale of this shader. And now if you put it, for example, to 5, you can see the pores are way smaller. So that is why we use the mapping texture coordinate mapping nodes. Which means if you want to make these birthmarks smaller, we can just go in here, mark all 3 of them, and then go to the, move to the right side, and now they're smaller. Of course, if you want to make it bigger, you'd move to the left side. Of course, right now only this noise texture will be affected by this mapping node. So if you want to affect this noise texture as well, we move this vector, plug into the vector socket, and now both textures will be affected by this mapping node. We can now switch our view to this noise texture, shift control on this one, and we can see the texture as well. Of course, it's way too big. Let's look at the shader to see the values. What I've used is a 9.2, 3.2 for the 2 first values. So 9.2 for the scale, and then 3.2 for the detail. I basically just wanted to add, if you slide this detail shader way up, not really much happens, because the detail shader basically works with the roughness shader in tandem. If we then bump up the roughness, we can see some more roughness, as you can see right there. It gets like, you don't have these harsh colors anymore, like these soft but harsh colors. You now have like these cloudy, yeah, basically rougher, this rougher texture basically, like looks more like stone. Let's bring this back. That was 3.2 in the detail, just to have a little bit more detail. Of course, you can't really see any changes between 3.2 and 0, maybe a little bit, but if we now go to the roughness, which will stay 0, so I mean, you could probably change the roughness a little bit if you want, but that's just gonna blur out the whole texture. I'm gonna keep it at 0. You can probably leave detail at 0 then as well if you want to make it easier. And then what we want to do is, of course, this will be our vein texture. So we can change the distortion to give it some more, you guessed it, distortion. And as you can see right there, we get some vein-like swirls in there basically. Of course, the veins aren't like just straight in one direction, they're all like all over the place, which is what we're trying to imitate with this texture. If we look at this one, we can see the distortion is at 0.9. So of course, if you want to increase the distortion more and more and more, you can see what happens. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller until you can't really see anything anymore. So we'll keep it pretty low. We'll keep it at 0.9. So we have this nice, yeah, nice starting point for this vein texture. We then of course use a color ramp to adjust the values a little bit more. So we use the factor, put that into the factor, and then we can press shift control on this one to see what the color looks after we've applied this node, this color ramp node. If we look at this, we can see I've used 3 handles. That is just because I thought like 2 handles weren't enough. So let's do the same. We add another one, so we can see now we have 3, 1 in the middle and 2 on the sides. We're going to keep the white, and then what we're going to do first is we're going to move this over here. So I added a 3rd one, because if we remove this and we only move the white over here, we can see we pretty quickly lose a lot of that detail and are only left with like these like cut off lines that aren't really like connected anymore. I kind of wanted to keep the connections, so what I did was not to move this handle over here. I added a 3rd one, kept it at something more grayish. What I wanted to do is have a few black or like darker veins, and then so like a few prominent ones, and then a few that are like more low-key, and then like no veins. So we'll move this over here so we have less prominent veins and more like subtle veins, right, like that. So now we can see we have a few prominent, as I said, veins or like values, and then we have more like a base subtlety of veins. Of course, It is still pretty strong in terms of the values, but we're going to adjust that later. This is basically the vein mask now. We could, if we wanted, we could change the handle values, but what I use this for is we can not only use this for the color, we can also use the noise texture for stuff like using it as a mask. Meaning, if you, for example, have a we then add a color mix RGB, put that over here, and we then put this in here. Let's give it a quick example. If we have another texture, for example, the Musgrave texture, we can see these very distinct black and white values. If we put the height or the black and white values into the factor, and then we look at the color, nothing changes because we have gray on gray. But if we change the colors to something blue and red, you can see what happens. The black and white texture basically tells these two, or this node, how these two colors should mix. Meaning white means the bottom color should be applied, and black means the blue or the top color should be applied. And if you have something like gray, we'll get like a mix between the two, which we can see in the middle, right there. We can see a mix which is purple, like a mix between red and blue, which will result in a purple. And then in here we have a more reddish color. If we then apply a color ramp, for example, and bring in some more of that white that you can see right there, bring it up, we can see now this is pure white. We should get a nice, as you can see right there, pure red in here. So we can not only use textures for coloring, we can also use them basically as masks. I call them masks because that's basically what they are in Photoshop. If we want to switch to Photoshop real quick, I can show you what I mean. Let's switch to Photoshop. We have Photoshop right here. If we then, for example, make a new object, let's make a tree. We have our tree. There you go. Let's change the color of this. Let's give it a color, maybe like this nice yellow. There you go. Okay, kind of laggy. Oh, okay. Why is it so laggy? Okay, perfect. So what we can do with this is we can apply a mask to this. Meaning, if we go in here, we can say we got this canvas basically with just plain white, and as we learned before, white means visible. If we then use a brush, let's make this smaller. Smaller. If we have a brush and we have a black color that you can see right there, and we brush over this image, we can see we remove the image. And as you can see right there, we've painted with black on this canvas, on this mask, which tells Photoshop, okay, everything that's white will be visible, everything that's black will be like hidden. Which is why I call it mask, because that's what it's called in Photoshop, and it's basically the same function in Blender. So if we switch back to Blender, that's what we're going to use this noise texture for. As you can see right there, this texture basically tells this mix RGB node, it basically tells that these parts should be the top color, or the top color, and the white, so this grayish to white, will be the bottom color. So what we're going to do is, of course, we have our base color. The base color should be what should be the most visible, or like have the most space on the object, which will be this whitish gray. So we'll put this this color ramp into whitish gray, means the bottom part. So we'll put it in here. So now the bottom color is this texture right here. This texture is basically applied to the color 2 socket. And now if we apply this color ramp to the factor, the socket for the mask basically, and then we apply, or we look at the mix RGB shader, we can see we have the base color, or the texture we've applied, or created. And we have this blue, because we have the same, like the second color is blue, which is everywhere where there are like darker values. So if we want to make this more veiny, we can make this color a little bit more reddish. Something like this should work pretty well. And now, as you can see, we have some veins in the like we have a more veiny skin texture. Of course, if we want to make it less prominent, we can go in here. Let's make this a pretty big red right there. So now the shader is pretty red, it looks like more like it's been hurt, or it's like damaged. If we then go in here and we want to reduce the effect or the mix mode or the mask, we can just select this black handle and then click on the black bar at the bottom and then move this over here to make it less prominent. Not too far though, and now we can see the effect lessens. Of course, we want to make it pretty, like we still want to see the red veins, so we're going to keep it more like this maybe. What we can do though is to get the base color some more in here. We can push this middle value, the gray value, higher, as you can see right there, and then this one can be a little bit brighter as well, so we can still see the veins, but they're just really subtle, not too prominent, as you can see right there. Okay, perfect. Now we basically set up the color, so we can put it into the base color and put the principal BSDF back into the material output. And voila, that's the base color. Of course, if you want to make it less red, you can do that by, first of all, either changing this color or playing around with these values. The easiest way in here would probably just be to go in here and change, for example, the value and then the saturation as well. And as you can see right there, we still see the veins, but they're very subtle. Perfect. Now we have some marks which look kind of reddish, so we can change that if we want. Put that more to a black maybe. Also, we can bump up. Oh, there you go. Not too big though. Okay, perfect. Hold, let's go in here. Oh. I'll bump up the brightness a little bit so it's not too reddish. This looks better. And we have not only the birthmarks, but we also have this veiny texture. Of course, it's not looking like exactly the same, but if you want to have like the exact same values, you can always like just play around with these values until you have what you see over here. So that's basically level 2 done. Next up, we want to add pores. We have 2 nodes we're going to use for the pores. The first one is pretty simple, which will just be another, of course, texture. We're going to use like only textures, like textures you can just add through nodes in this shader, because it's going to be procedural. Procedural meaning infinitely big, so you can scale it up and scale it down as much as you want. There's never going to be an end, because all the textures are going to be basically calculated. They're just a formula basically, which results in this texture. So you can always like add more to the formula, a higher value. It's never going to end, which is why it's so useful for like adding just a plain skin texture to your object if you don't want to make a custom texture. We use a Voronoi texture. If we look at the Voronoi texture, you can see what it looks like. It gives us this pattern basically. If we go to randomness, put that to 0, we can better see what it looks like. It adds these not cubes, like this geometric pattern with these darker spots in the middle, which is what we're going to use for the pores. As you can see, if you compare it, it looks quite similar. but we have to make a few adjustments. Of course, it's not going to be a randomness of 0, because there shouldn't be aligned like perfectly in a straight line, because pores don't do that. So the first thing we're going to do is, if we look in here, we use, hold on, which one did I use? Of course, the Voronoi texture, we use a scale of 29. So let's go in here, change the scale to 29. There you go. Still pretty even, or like the even distribution. So we also use a value for the randomness of 1, completely, like basically completely random. And there you go. Now we have this nice Voronoi texture that is randomly distributed. We then, of course, to let this like be affected by the mapping node as well, we use the vector exit, or like input, and put it into the vector output. No, hold on. We use the vector output and put it into the Voronoi texture input, vector input socket. So now if we go to scale, we can see this Voronoi texture is affected as well. Next up, we need another color ramp, because we want to affect how the texture looks. Basically, we want to change the values. So we use another converter color ramp, put that into here. So the distance is plugged into the factor of this color ramp, and then we can change the values. If we compare it to this one, you can see what I did basically is introduce more white. I bumped up the whites and like kept the blacks the same. What that does, I'm going to show you right now. If we then use the handle and move it to the left, we can see at some point we're only left with a few dots. And this basically is your pore texture. Of course, it's just like black and white dots right now. So to actually use it, or to have a 3D effect, we're going to use another new node, which will be the vector bump node. Put the color into the height, and what basically happens now is the bump node acts as if, or it imitates 3D movement, or like geometric changes on that surface. It just imitating it. It's not really happening. It's just like it looks like it, but it's not really happening. So if we put the normal into the normal of this principal BSDF, we can see nothing, of course, because we have to put the principal BSDF into the material output. And when this is done, you can see we have these nice like pores in there. As I said before, it's just imitating this. So there's no like added geometry or anything. This is just like surface imperfections imitated by this texture. How this works is pretty simple. If you look at this dot right there, and then we switch to the color view, you can see what happens. Basically, everything that's white is basically like the black and white have different like from black to white is a spectrum of displacement, meaning if you look at this, white means the highest it can go, and black means the lowest it can go. So if we look at the bump map again, we can see right where the black dot were, we can see this little like pore. This is basically how the bump texture works. Black meaning we have like these, like this deepening. It goes deeper, and white means like it goes higher. We have most of the surface, or the texture is white, meaning this is like just a smooth surface, and the rest is these black dots, which are the pores. Of course, pores in real life don't really just look like dots, but like if you want to like make them more detailed, you could do that on your own. We're gonna keep them round, because if you want to like, if you're not really like super close, you're not really seeing like the perfect roundness of these circles. And I mean, if you want to make it like ultra realistic, you're not going to use this shader. This shader is just more like for a fast application, so you don't have to set this up all the time. So What we want to change though is the value of the strength value. What that strength value does is it is basically just it determines the height difference between white and black. Meaning if we change the strength, you can see the bumps get smaller and smaller, or like shallower and shallower, until there's no strength left and there's no bumps anymore. So we want to reduce this a little bit, because pores, if we put it to 1, will be very, very prominent. Too prominent, so we're going to reduce it to 0.5. So we go into the strength, 0.5, and there you go. We have a nicely set up pore. If we reduce it too much, we can't really see the pores anymore in rendered view. In material preview, they're a little bit more prominent. In rendered view, if you look at this, for example, if you look at her nose, for example, let's see if we can get a little bit closer in here. So you can see her nose, you can see the dots in there. If we go to rendered view, they're not as visible anymore. So don't be fooled by the material preview view. If you then go to render view, they're not as visible anymore, which is why we keep it at 0.5. Not at 1, that's too much, but 0.5 is a good value. You can't really see them right now, it's still pretty noisy. You can maybe see them up here a little bit, and over here a few bumps or pores. Of course you can see them very prominent in here. So now we've set up our pores, and perfect. Next up, we need another bump texture. Why do we need another bump texture? Of course, because we don't want to have just a even skin with just pores. We want to add a little bit more detail. We want to add a few like cuts and like damage to the skin, just to make it a little bit more realistic, add a little bit more detail, because skin isn't perfectly smooth, even though commercials tell you they are, or they can be. They most likely aren't. So we're gonna add a few cuts in here as well. And what we need for that is another noise texture. We can just duplicate this one, move it over here, and we want to adjust these settings. First of all, of course, if we want to scale this up or down, we have to put the vector into the noise texture vector, just so this texture is also affected by all that stuff. Just to show you what happens if it's not connected. If we, for example, have it connected right now and we move the scale, we can see everything gets smaller, or like, hold on, like smaller, everything gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And then if we change, like if we remove the Voronoi texture, hold on, it's loading, and you can see the scale didn't change. And if you put it back in, you can see the scale changed. So to really like utilize this shader completely and like be able to use it on every object, not depending on how big it is, you have to like plug this vector into all these Voronoi, like into all these textures. So let's go in here into the noise texture. Let's change these settings first. Let's look at the values in here. We have a scale of 7.380, very precise, 7.380. So they're pretty small. Of course, the cuts shouldn't be too prominent. We also have everything at zero except the distortion. So let's do that. Distortion 0.6. And there you go. That's basically looks similar to the veins, and we're gonna use this. They're basically vein, like the structure is the same for these cuts, so we can set it up similar to the veins. We then use another color ramp, of course, to crush down the whites or the blacks. Meaning we want to have like a few of these black lines left. Everything else should be white. How do we do that? we just go in here, select this white handle and move it over here until we have just a few lines left, something like that. If we compare it to this one, we can see it's similar. And now we have a few spots left, which kind of look like just unevenness, which we will then add to this bump texture. If we want to maybe add some detail, let's see if that works. It's not really working, so we're not gonna really care about this. We can keep the detail at 0 as well, and that's basically how this noise texture is set up. So to mix two textures into one bump map texture, what we use is a converter math node. Nope, hold on. We use a color mix RGB, put that in there, and then we plug in the second color in there as well. So next up, let's look at the color from the mix RGB node. There you go. You can see we still have our dots and we also have our cuts. The only thing is they're both pretty washed out. That is because the mix mode is set to mix, meaning mix mode means how the two textures will be calculated with each other, meaning black is 0 and white is 1. And if we have it to mix, I think it just finds the value between the two. And if we put that from mix to multiply and then factor to 1, we can see we keep the same darkness from these 4 dots, and we can add or multiply these cuts onto these dots. What that means is, if we look at this, every black dot is a value of 0. If we then have a texture with gray or black values as well, it basically adds 0 multiplied by 0, meaning it stays black. If it's a white value, meaning 1, and we add multiply 0, it also is 0. So that's basically how you can add two textures that you want to both where you want to combine those into a single bump texture. You can do that using a multiply node and then just plugging both in, setting it to multiply, and then the factor to 1. That is basically how you do it. Now we have a combined texture, and then if we look at this, you can see while it's still loading, and there you go, we not only have the pores, but we also have these cuts right there, or these uneven spots. And that's basically the base setup. As I said before, pretty simple if you just go through it slowly. It may look complex in the beginning, but if you're just gonna go through it pretty slowly, it's not too hard. If you want to have if you just want to do that, copy it later, or if you remember, oh, I saw this skin shader tutorial, I want to copy the values real quick. Let me show you. Subsurface 0.1, metallic 0, and you can see all the values right there. Then onto a mix RGB node, we can see in color mix RGB. We use a noise texture with these values, use a color ramp with handles that have these values, positioning values, We can look at all three, 0.305, 0.1. The value for this one is right there. The value for this one is right there. We then go over to the base color. We have these values for the noise texture, color ramp, value first handle, black handle, second handle, value for this one, or values for this one, the vein color value right there, or color, and then we have our mapping texture coordinate node, which is plugged into all these textures. And then of course we have the bump texture, which of course is starting from a bump texture. We have the strength of 0.5. We also have a multiply, mix RGB node with multiply as the mix or blending mode. Set the factor to 1. And then the first Voronoi texture for the pores, basically, with these values. 3D F1 Euclidean, color ramp, these values 0 and, hold on, 0.368. Noise texture with these values, and then O, like 0 and 0.295. That's the setup. Now, of course, we can save that real quick. That is basically the skin setup. If you want to apply that now to this character, now it's rendered. Let's do that real quick. We can select this character, and then we can apply, what is it called? Let's call it skin 3. We then select the character and apply skin 3 to her. Of course, it's going to be a little bit more reddish, but as you can see, it looks almost the same. If we look a little bit closer, or we go to material preview, we can see, there you go. We have some dots in there, like some smaller, what do you call it, birthmarks. Let's compare it to, hold on, I changed the scale. Let's put that down to 1. There you go. Now we have some nice pores, some nice smaller cuts, some birthmarks, and yeah. As you can see though, the basic setup does not like shy away from the lips, so everything will be like, will have this shader, which is what we're getting into now, which is the level, what is it? Level 4. Level 4 it is. Level 4 is using masks, like basically masking out the values you've set in here. So if you want to go a little bit more in depth and determine, like for example, the nose has more subsurface scattering than the rest, for example, the cheeks, and the lips have more subsurface scattering. If you want to add that to the character to make it just a little bit more realistic, you can apply a mask to the subsurface scattering as well. If we want to look at that, let's bring this back to skin 2. So if you, for example, go in here and we do the same we did before to show you, we can use a magic texture. No, hold on, not the magic texture. Musgrave texture. There you go. We have black and white. Put the height into the subsurface, and then look at the shader. We can see we use the Musgrave texture as a mask for the subsurface scattering. So right there, there's more subsurface scattering. Right there, there's very little, and that is basically how you can determine where there's going to be more subsurface scattering and where there's going to be less. Of course, if your character has no properly set up UVs, you can't really use texture painting. That's not going to really end well. That's not really going to end well. That is because sometimes your UVs could overlap, which could then result in, if you paint in here, it's also going to paint over there, which is probably not what you want. So the best way to do that without any retopology or like properly set up UVs would be to use vertex colors. I set that up over here already. I can show you what a vertex color basically is. Let's use this. Let's go to solid view, and then if you want to make a new vertex color, we can go over here and click this plus button. So we have a new color. Let's call this subsurface, or let's call it SSS for subsurface scattering, and then call it mask. So that's the vertex color mask. We then can go over here to the 3D viewport, switch from object mode to vertex paint, and there you go. Now we have the vertex paint mode. Of course, not really much changed. That is because we can now paint onto this character, or this this monkey. Let's switch back real quick. I want to show you something. Of course, it's called vertex paint, vertex colors, or like, yeah, vertex colors, vertex paint, whatever you want to call it, because it's applying a certain color to each individual vertex. So if you remove this real quick, this modifier, we can see it's really choppy. Let's go to flat and also enable wireframe. Now we can see the wireframe on top of the surface. So if we then go back to vertex paint and we go to the brush and we use a different color, maybe a pink, we can then say, okay, let's paint in the middle of this face. Oh, nothing happens, of course, because it's only applying color to the vertices. So if you paint over this vertex right there, it's going to apply a color to this vertex. So if you want to, for example, make a mask for the subsurface scattering, and as I said before, the subsurface scattering is stronger at the nose, what we have to do is, first of all, black meaning no subsurface scattering, white meaning full subsurface scattering. We use black first, paint this monkey in black. I think we can also, nope, we cannot. There's a bucket tool in the vertex, the texture paint window. We can't use that in here. That basically just fills up the whole object with the same color. We're not going to do that. We're just going to paint every single vertex in this black color. So the base will be no subsurface scattering. And that is basically done. If you want to see flat colors, you can go to viewport shading in this small little arrow right there, left click, and then you can say flat. Now you can only see the flat color with no reflections, and you can see we've left a few spots white. Let's purge those. We don't need any whites anymore. There you go. And that is basically all of them. Okay, perfect. Oh, one more. Perfect. Okay. So, of course, as we have set it up right there. Oh, there you go. What we could do is we could now go into the color and set a value of 0.1, which is equal to the subsurface value of 0.1, and then we could paint the whole monkey in 0.1 in a value of 0.1. We're not going to do that. What we're going to do though is basically we're going to keep it like that. That is because if you keep your values at pure black and pure white, you can then adjust them using a color ramp. If you think, oh, okay, the blacks or the lowest value should be a little bit higher, you can then just use a color ramp and bump up the black handle to something more grayish, so you also have some subsurface scattering in the parts that were black before. So what we're going to do is we said nose has subsurface scattering, so we move from black to white to a value of 1 full subsurface scattering for now, and then we just paint in here the nose. So we have this very basic mask for the nose, and we're going to do the same for the lips. As I said before, lips are also have also very high subsurface scattering. Perfect. And ears as well. Shouldn't take too long, there aren't that many vertices. And there you go. Perfect. Let's do the other ear as well. I think there's a symmetry option as well. If you want to enable that, let's check it real quick where it is. And when I'm done, okay. There should be under the tool setting up here at the top, we should see a symmetry option. So if we enable X, for example, we can see it mirrors the painting to the other side as well. Oh, I see there's a small mistake. Zip. Remove this vertex right there. And perfect. So now we have our mask. We've applied color to these vertices. And then we can go back to object mode. We can remove the wireframe and switch from flat to studio. Let's then go to material preview and we want to apply the mask. So how do we do that? We go to input, we use vertex color, and then we select the mask or the vertex color layer basically from this list. Now we have the subsurface scattering mask. We can then put the color into the subsurface value. And when this is done, we can see that we have full subsurface scattering in the ears, the nose and the lips, and no subsurface scattering in all the other parts. Now, as I said before, if you want to customize this a little bit more, we can use a color ramp, put that in here. And once that's done loading, we can then adjust these values. So we don't want to have full subsurface scattering in the ears. We want to have more something like, let's see, 0.3 for example, or like, let's say 0.5 to make it more visible. And then the middle part should be something more like 0.1 as we had before. Now we have small subsurface scattering, or like little subsurface scattering, the value we had before in the middle part, and or the black part of the mask, and the white part has a value of 0.3. And this way you can customize your skin shader even more. Basically, creating a custom mask for not only, for example, what I usually do is I have my color applied, my base color, then I have a subsurface scattering mask for the subsurface value. I also have a so sometimes I have a specularity map as well. That's just the same way. You just add another vertex color layer, call that spec, for example, and then do the same in there. I also have a roughness map because your nose is usually a little bit more oily, or like your lips are more glossy because they're like wet, which is why you can use a roughness map for that as well. And this way you can customize your values a little bit more, which will result in a better looking character, which looks just a little bit more realistic. What you can also do is you can remove the pores from the lips, for example, or for example on this character you can see the pores are on his eyes as well. So if you want to do that, let's do that real quick. We can go call that bump. Okay, and then if we go to solid, we go to vertex paint, we can see we have from, hold on, the weird thing, I don't know if it's a bug or it's just like it's meant that way. Hold on, let me see if that's in here. No. So the problem is if you have multiple vertex colors, you can't see the other, like the new, oh, hold, no. So if you add another vertex color, it basically copies the colors from the first mask. So if we select the bump layer now, or the first layer, if we select the bump layer now and we use black, and if we remove the nose, for example, and we switch to the SSS mask, we can see the values still stay there. So it copies the values from the first layer onto the second layer as well. So if you, for example, want to make a bump map mask, so you can determine where the pores should be and where they shouldn't be, we first of all remove all colors or all the whites. Of course, I think the easiest way to do that now, if we want to change the eyes, for example, we then use white, put this in here, all the way over here. We can't really go underneath the eyelids, but we can keep it more like this maybe. This should work as well. Do the same on this side. We could have applied symmetry, but I didn't, so Isn't too bad though. And there you go. Now we have, hold on, let's switch to flat so we can see if we've missed anything. We have missed a few. Let's fix that. Over here as well, just a few more. Perfect. Now we have our bump mask. We go to object mode, put that back to studio, and then we move to material preview, and then we can apply the bump texture over here as well. So how we do that is pretty simple. We just go in here and we use another input vertex color, put which vertex color layer do we want to have. We use the bump mask. We then plug this color into the strength, and there you go. And there you go. You see what happens. The vertex color, basically, or the mask tells this bump map. As we said before, strength 1 means full bump. Strength 0 means no bump. We keep it at 0.5, meaning this vertex color right now is full bump on the eyes, no bump everywhere else. So to fix that, what we could do is go to color ramp, put that in here, and then the color into the strength. Now we have the same results we had before. To adjust them, we can do the following. What we can do is just move this handle over here and the black on the other side, and now we have reversed it, inverted it basically. There's also a color inversion, like inverted colors node if you want to use that. I just use the color ramp, and then what you can do is change the values as well as we did before. So we have a base value, or like the eyes should have no strength, so we can keep black at like we can keep it black, so black means 0, so no strength on the eyes. And then we had a value of 0.5 for the rest, which means 0.5 for the whites, and now we have the same bumps we had before. If we put that, like, remove it, we can see that the strength changes a bit. I don't really know why. So if you want to relay with this, we can probably increase this as well. If you would see that the bumps aren't strong enough anymore, so maybe something more like 0.7 is better. But now you've created a mask for the eyes as well. So what you could do for this character, for example, of course, if you want to have more detailed masks, you need more vertices. On this monkey, there aren't that many vertices, so you can't really make detailed masks. But for this character, for example, if you go to material preview, you can see the geometry is pretty dense, so you can make quite detailed masks. Especially like you can do that for the mouth. Just a roughness map for the lips, for example. The lips should be glossier than the skin, and yeah, that's basically what you can do with this. Also, like, of course, a subsurface scattering map. Just all the maps you you can basically make a map for all the values we've changed. Okay, so that's the basic setup. I mean that's the full setup. If you have any questions, you can always ask them, either in my stream or in the comments. I will probably, oh, of course, if you want to have a little, like, small guidance for how the mask could look like, because you don't really know, like, I don't really know, like, just by thinking about it, how the specularity map, for example, looks like. I have a link to a really helpful website that tells you basically how you can set up the specularity, glossy, and all that. You can, like, just look in there and see how they set it up, and then, like, do the same for your character. But yeah, that's basically the whole setup for a procedural skin shader. Let's see the finished value. I mean, the finished product one more time. Of course, it's pretty big, so we can just go in here and change the scale maybe to 5, so everything is way smaller. if you have any more questions, you can put them in the comments. If you liked the video, if you found it helpful, enjoyable, whatever, you can hit the like button. If you have any criticism, you can hit the dislike button and tell me what you didn't like in the comments. If you want to see more tutorials, or tomorrow I'm gonna do a likeness sculpt, at least on stream. I don't know when I'm gonna upload it to YouTube, where I explain how my process is of likeness sculpting someone, or like doing a likeness sculpt of someone. Yeah, if you want to see that, you can subscribe either to my live channel to see when I'm going online, or to my video channel where I will upload that at some point. Other than that, hope you have a great day. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Maybe I'll see you next time. Until then, take care. Okay, that was just for the video. And that's basically the skin shader. If there are any more questions, I'm open to answer them. We have like 1 hour, so what I'm gonna do is switch to my character 3. Oh. Okay. Where's my character 3? There it is. Because we're still working on her hair, and the faster we are, the earlier we can work on something more fun. As you can see, that's the current progress. We add hair cards more and more just to fill out her hair. Right now it looks pretty empty, looks more like tapes. That is because I'm gonna change the hair texture later to make it look a little bit more like hair. Right now we're more caring about the volume in general, looking at filling out the hair so it doesn't look as empty as it does right now. So that's what we're gonna do for the rest of the stream. I think I stopped right there. So I started creating the second layer of hair strands, basically smaller strands, which are the main part of the hair. The first one was just a filler to fill out the whole hair, to not have like skin peeking through the hair cards. Now we're adding hair cards for the main structure and the main flow. I think I've stopped right there. I began over here and then moved over here. So let's look at our reference. We can't really see anything over here. But if I have to guess, we would probably do the same like hairline that we have over here as well, like on the other side. So we can just duplicate this and adjust it to our liking. Let's remove a few vertices. We don't need these vertices. There you go. And now let's turn it over here, pull it closer to the skin. Perfect. Okay, so we want to get this nice bow in there, so we have to pull this a little bit further back. That looks pretty good. And there you go, the root is basically done. We have to lift it up a little bit. Hold on. There you go. Perfect. Now let's remove this one as well, just to have more freedom. And we want to apply or like form this hair card. We could probably put it like over here. So let's do that. Give it a nice curve. Maybe also just adjusting the curves overall so it fits perfectly in here. Let's keep it closer to the head so the volume isn't too big from the beginning. We want to keep it pretty close, because otherwise the hair will just puff out so much that it doesn't really fit anymore. You could twist this so it has more of this, so it fills more of this empty space in the middle, and also just is like more diverse. Because if every curl looks the same, it doesn't really look realistic anymore. Okay, put that in here and move it over here. Make this nice curve and then end it like over here somewhere. Maybe twist it, and perfect. Now we filled out part of this empty space. Perfect. Ah. As I said before, tomorrow we're gonna do likeness sculpting. I did a likeness sculpt on Saturday. Basically, I just like the one thing the main thing I want to improve right now is my likeness sculpting skills. Which meant I like did a likeness sculpt just for practice on Saturday of Gary V. Maybe you know him. And it went pretty well. It took like roughly like 3.5 hours. There should be you can see it on my Instagram and also on my Noggy Today channel as a speed sculpt. Yeah. If you want to look at that, I think it came out pretty well. So I uploaded a speed sculpt of that to TikTok as well. And someone asked if I could sculpt a Mark Cuban. So I have the plan anyway to do more, just to practice it. I'll probably do at some point a likeness sculpting week where I do like 4 likeness sculpts throughout the week. Start them and then finish them in the same stream, hopefully. I mean, if the first one took like 3.5 hours or almost 4, I don't know if I can finish them in one day. But if it's like a character or like a person with longer hair, that will probably not be possible. But yeah, that's the plan probably for next week. So if you're also interested in likeness sculpting, tune in next week or tomorrow, where I explain my workflow. So let's continue working on this. What we could do is just duplicate this to finish or close this gap. There you go. We have to adjust it though. Remove these vertices. We don't need them. Ta-da! Perfect. Okay, let's move over here. We don't need such a steep degree. There you go. And then we can close this gap. Put it close to the skin. And there you go. Of course, hair cards are supposed to imitate the hair actually coming out of the skin. So it has to be pretty close to the skin. Let's change this shape. Let's see. We can twist it so it's over this other strand, and then we could probably put it in here somewhere. So let's do that. can go in here, rotate it, move it down here, twist it. Should we do an S curve? I don't think that'll look good. So we'll not do that. What we'll do though is we'll put this closer because it's pretty far off right now. Change the rotation so it's still above the other strand. And then we can bring this in here. We can keep it up here, I think. That should look pretty good. Just trying to fill out this volume of hair first, and then we can add a little bit more detail later. So, okay, perfect. This can be a little bit like that, maybe. Okay. Then we can move this in here. It's pretty far off right now. It's kind of weird because we have to keep in mind that this black color will not be visible, only the hair itself. We have to keep that in mind. So it may seem as if the hairs are very close together, but they're actually not. Okay. We can make this a double curl. Let's do that. Move that over here. Perfect. Do like extrude and end it right there. Maybe twist it a little bit. Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. Let's twist this as well. And there you go. Perfect. Let's see what it looks like. It may be too far off. Let's see. Looks pretty good, I think. Yep, doesn't look too bad. And we've also filled out this space right there. There's still much missing down here, but up there that already looks pretty good. Perfect. So now that we've covered the main flow of the hair, we can add some more. Of course, we've covered the hairline now. We're gonna make this a little bit more, what would you call this? A little bit more realistic, more detailed, using the second hair card for the strands. So we're not gonna worry about that now. What I see though is a pretty big gap right there. No, I don't think we have to worry about that. What we're gonna worry about though is back here. What you can you can see it in here. I have my other references. Where I'm looking at to see more angles for the hair. Recent. There it is. You can't see my references. Only I can, because the capture doesn't really register. Like if I want to capture this window, like my reference window, it's just pure black, which doesn't really work. So you're just not seeing it. That's the best compromise I think I can do. It's not really a compromise, but well, best solution if you want to call it that. So we're missing a little bit of volume at the back. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna add a few more cards. Let's go to material preview, and we can just grab one of those. This one, for example, move this over here. We can just hide it underneath the other cards. the transition between these two is pretty harsh right now. That is why we're gonna add another texture, another strand type. And also, if we want to make them blend together some more, we can do that later when we change the texture. Because right now that's just the basic setup of the texture. If we then want to adjust it a little bit, we can do that. We don't need that many vertices in the beginning, so we remove a few. I want to go a little bit higher. There you go. Okay, now we can just go in here and let's see, how do we fill out the space and also like just bring in more volume? I guess the best way would just be to pull this down here, then twist it. Okay, and then we just go in here and add a second one for the curl. Add that curl in here. Extrude. Make this smaller. And then we can finish the curl by just going in here and finishing it on the outside. Perfect. Oh, let's see. Let's move that over here. Okay. And there, there you go. Now it's round and it's done. Oh, which wrong one? Let's move it a little bit closer to the first half. And okay, perfect. No, I'm gonna keep it. I thought about not making it curl like that because I want to, like, the volume basically should stop right there, but I think this one fits in quite well. Let's see where we're missing volume, because I don't really see it in the other view. So down here we still have quite a lot of holes, so let's fill those. So we can just go in here and, for example, duplicate this one, move it down here. We could maybe just copy them in here so it looks like that. As long as they're not like super intersecting, shouldn't be too bad. And then we can just go in here and change the rotation. And this way we do not only bring in more curls, we also fill out this blank space, or we fill out these holes. A win-win situation. Okay. Okay, let's add a few more. I guess we can just duplicate this and paste it over here. Then we remove the first vertices. And then we can adjust it to how it fits in here. What we could do with this is make it a inverted curl. So we could, for example, twist to the side. And then there you go. That's the beginning of the curl. Maybe move it out so it fills even more space. There you go. Okay, perfect. So my plan for the likeness sculpting session, or the likeness sculpting week, is I've like wrote down a few, or like a few people I want to recreate, not only for practice but also like kind of, I don't know, like if you want to call it like fan art, because I like, it's like I've either noted them or like I've either written them down because they have like unique features, or just because I wanted to sculpt them. So on my list I have not only Mark Cuban, because somebody asked if I can sculpt him. That's what we're gonna do tomorrow. And then next, in like the week after, let me pull up my list. We have a few options, I think. Hold on, there it is. I have a few streamers and like YouTube channels. I usually just watch the YouTube videos from them, but Dark Viper AU, the good old GTA 5 streamer that mostly does either speedruns or like modded GTA runs. I enjoy his content recently quite a lot, so I want to make a fan art for him. And also XQC. I also wrote down people like Pokimane, Destiny, David Dobrik, Dr. K, or Alok Kinogia, or Healthy Gamer GG, or more like pop personalities like Billie Eilish or Ariana Grande. If I said before, like, it's either that I watch them or enjoy their content, or they have like unique features, if you want to call it that. One thing I don't really know just yet is, I think my Gary V likeness sculpt came out pretty well. Actually, like, better than I expected, because I think I like recreated him pretty well. You can see his likeness, and I want to see if I can do the same with female personalities, because with male personalities, they have more like distinct features, more rigid, if you want to call it that, more rigid features, for stuff like wrinkles, or yeah, just wrinkles, and overall their face structure is more rigid, like their cheekbones and all that, or not cheekbones, but yeah, even their cheekbones, or stuff like the fat or the jawline and all that. It's more defined, if you want to call it that. And with female people, it is they usually, or they tend to have more fat pads underneath, which will soften the skin and like remove or reduce the distinctiveness or the rigidness of their features. Basically, they have more softer faces, which I don't know if that's harder for me to recreate or not, which is why I have also like people like Ariana Grande that have more soft faces, not too many rigid features, and I want to see if I can capture her likeness as well. Okay. We look from the side. Do we have big holes? We can see, as you can see now, we don't have that many holes. We can see some over there, which we can fix now. Let's go to rendered view. Okay, we've plugged one hole. Of course, there are a few more, so let's get at it. Let's go at it. As I said before, the faster we are, the faster we're done. There's a big hole in there. Then let me focus on this over here first before we go over there. And yeah, so I don't know why, but I don't know why it like interests me so much, but like the most interesting or the most fun sculpting for me is recreating either a concept or recreating a real life person as realistic or as realistic as I can. Maybe not in terms of pores, but in terms of their likeness. I don't know why it's so interesting to me. I think it's just, it requires so much skill, I guess, that it's just interesting to me. Of course, if there are any requests, just like Mark Cuban, I'll be happy to consider them. Of course, I'm not planning to do likeness sculpting every day now. I'm still gonna do tutorials or like explanations or smaller projects that aren't only sculpting. But I want to have like 1 week where I really focus on getting better at likeness sculpting and also just testing my skills at it to see if I actually can, for example, sculpt female faces or likenesses. I'm going to make this a double twist or double curl as well. This one's going to be inward though. So move this in here. This one has to be a little bit more twisted. This one as well. There you go. And we can maybe make this like end it over here actually, with this interesting twist in there. Perfect. So we plug this hole as well. We have one over there. Oh, right in here. So let's add a strand in here. We have this big hole right there. So let's just duplicate this and then adjust it. Oh, hold on. Okay, where is it? I can't see it anymore. There it is. Let's move in here. And to fill this hole, oh, we have to be pretty far out. Also, we can move it a little bit more over here. Oh, we have no music. What is going on? Oh, okay. There's just like nothing. There you go. The song just ended with like 10 seconds of nothing. Silence. You know, I also want to make this likeness tutorial tomorrow because I couldn't really find a good tutorial online, like as a YouTube video. It's either like a paid course or just a speed sculpt, which lacks the explanation that I was craving. And I think now I have a good, hopefully I have a good skill set, or like a sufficient skill set to do my own tutorial. And it's also interesting, like I see like there are like multiple Blender YouTubers or like channels that do Blender content, not only in terms of tutorials, but also like in terms of more fun content. But there's none that does like sculpting realistic characters. At least I haven't found them. And like if they like I have a few sculpting channels that I watch sometimes, but they don't really work with Blender. They work more with the ZBrush or programs, or yeah, I mean either ZBrush or Blender. So the one person, Jan Sculpts, that works in Blender does more like a stylized characters. And then I also know Danny Mac 3D, which does stylized characters as well. And I haven't found any, I don't know of any person that does more realistic characters, which is kind of odd. So now I'm here to fill the space. Yeah, I don't know, it's weird. Everybody just does stylized characters apparently. But I mean, if I look at like stuff like ArtStation, there are like enough people that do realistic characters as well. And if they want to look like, if someone new like me, for example, wants to look at how you can create likeness, or like create a likeness sculpt, there's no tutorial because there's only speed sculpts or like paid courses, like trailers basically, which is really helpful. So yeah, that's why I didn't do it myself now. Okay, we could probably move it a little bit more over here. Okay, there's this big hole still. Let's see. There's no hole here anymore. There's still one over there. But I think we shouldn't fill too many small holes. We can fill them with the second layer. But we still need quite a lot because the volume is still quite empty. Right there, there's quite a big hole, or of course over here. Let's put the one in there somehow. Okay. Of course, we have 4 layers of hair cards. We're only at the second one. but the second one is meant to fill out and form the main shape of the hair. So we will not go too detailed with this one, but we will also not, like, we can't have too, like, not enough, or too, we can't do, what would you call it? Too little? Yeah, I guess too little. We have to find a good balance between too much and not enough. Usually when I did hair cards, I usually go overboard and add too many because I want to make it like completely fully realistic. But if you want to make it real time, you can't really do that. You can probably add one more in here. Oh, not this one. But there. No, where is it? There it is. Aha. We could probably just duplicate this over here as well. Let's change it a little bit maybe. There you go. Or we can even put it underneath the big curve. Aha. Perfect. Let's see what it looks like. Let's save it. Okay. Perfect. As you can see right there, from the front we can still see a few holes right there. For example, there's only one strand, for example. We could probably put some more in there now. Let's see. Let's duplicate this. Rotate it. Da-da-da. Perfect. Let's remove a few of those. There you go. And now let's fill out this gap. Okay. This one can be a more open-ended curl, maybe. Could probably just end over there. Okay. Let's see. And there you go. We've at least partially fixed it. Okay. There was one down here as well. Let's see. Was there? I think. Oh, there it is. A pretty big hole. Let's see. Okay. We can probably put one right there. So we just move this, duplicate it, and move it over there. And there you go. We can then adjust it a little bit. And that's basically the next curl. Oh, wait, did I select the wrong one? I did, okay. I did. Oh. Okay, I guess that could be it. Let's see. Haha, another hole plugged. Perfect. Mwahaha. Let me drink something real quick. We have 50 minutes left. Perfect. Okay. So, let's see. There's quite a lot of like empty space in there, so let's add one in there. Let's use this one. Move it over here, and then we can adjust it. Perfect. This one can be flatter, like that. It just has to be underneath the base or the top layer. That's all I care about right now. Okay, maybe something like that. Okay, extrude. So, yeah, I don't know why likeness sculpting is so interesting to me. That's always been the case. Like I've started my art career, if you want to call it that, with digital painting, and back then, the most fun I had was when I was like not tracing, but like redrawing. When I was redrawing old League of Legends splash art, or splash art, which was really fun. Like I grabbed a A3, DIN A3, if you call it that, paper, and then just drew on there like the splash screen, basically just the main character, and I might even have that still. And that is that was the most fun. Like I also created like my own characters, and it was either that I wasn't really skilled at it at that point, that it wasn't like as fun, because I couldn't really do the proportions and anatomy correctly, so it was kind of frustrating maybe, or it was just more fun in general, like for me to recreate the splash screens rather than making my own characters. I don't really know why that was so fun to me, and now it's transitioned from 2D to 3D. The first character I did on stream was also a recreation of a concept art, and yeah. I don't know. It's just like, usually I look at like 2D images and I just think to myself, dude, I wonder what that would look like in 3D. And then I recreate it in 3D. As easy as that. That's usually how my character starts. Of course, not all my characters are. Wait, did I ever create like a You're my own character? Yeah, well, yeah, I did with my second character this last month. That was a like my own character. Wasn't like really special or anything, but yeah, that was my own character. With special I mean no, like it wasn't really recognizable. It was pretty generic. No special features or anything. What I'm gonna do is go in here and rotate this because I want to fill this blank space down here, this hole. Aha. You know, I've been listening more and more to like content from Gary Vee. That's why I did his likeness, or I sculpted his likeness. And I think like usually I kind of like am in the same, I have the same opinion that he has in terms of work and how you should live your life. The only difference that I still try to improve on is he, like in terms of putting out content, he says like you should put out your content as if you were the only person alive. Basically, you shouldn't care. You shouldn't, for example, you shouldn't prematurely care what other people will think about your content before you publish it. Or you shouldn't think, you should not judge your content before others do. Or think what others might say about your content before they've even seen it. So, meaning, he, like, something like, if you were the only person alive, how would you structure your content? And I think that's one philosophy I kind of want to adapt. I don't want to, like, I kind of have like a, like maybe small perfectionism, if you want to call it that. And I think that can get in my way sometimes, because it takes me longer to finish a project than it maybe should, because you can't really see the changes that well, or you can't see the changes at all in the end, but it just like adds more time to the clock basically until it's finished, the project. And I think I'm still kind of so what I want to say is that I still kind of care about judgment of others, especially like my friends, which I kind of want to reduce, or like reduce, you could call it. I shouldn't think about what my friends could say about, for example, that I do streaming before I even told them. Like sometimes I don't know why, but my shtick since like the beginning was always that I like talking about what I do, but I don't like showing what I do. So, or maybe not even talking about it. Like I create all the stuff, like all the projects, but then if someone from like my friends or my family asks me what I do, I just talk about it very generically and don't really show the stuff I do. And I don't really know why, because I guess I don't wanna I don't know why. I don't want to receive judgment from them, or I don't know. So yeah, that's one thing I want to get rid of, this habit of not talking about and showing what I enjoy or what I do, because I think they will think bad of me or anything. That is, I think, not a good trait to have. Okay, let's see, where are their holes? Oh, there's quite a big gap between the hair and the curls right there, so we'll add a few more down there. To fill this space a little bit more effective, of course, effectively, we just twist them, so most of the surface will be visible from the side. Yeah, I think this likeness sculpting series will be an ongoing series. I'll probably do some off stream and also on stream, just because they're so much fun and they're pretty quick as well. Like, I think the first few sculpts took quite a while, but like three and a half hours or 3 hours and 45 minutes isn't really that long, in my opinion. So you can bang one out every once in a while, which is pretty fun. So weekends are a good place to do that, or on stream, just one session. I would probably have to do my quick sketch pretty quickly, because usually it takes me like an hour to finish the whole quick sketch with post-production. So I would probably have to do them a little bit quicker when I do the likeness sculpt, or I just stream a little bit longer, depending on how long it would probably take me. But yeah, I should finish one. I should be able to finish one per stream. It's very depending on how much hair the character has, or the person, because if they have long flowing hair, it'll take a little bit longer to sculpt that than if they have shorter hair, like Gary V, for example. He has quite short hair. Mark Cuban as well, but for example, people like Pokimane or Ariana Grande, or even Dark Viper AU often has a full beard. Can take quite a while to finish. Let's put one in there. Okay, we remove a few vertices. And now we can work with this. Inside of her skin right now, that's not good. Okay. I will also probably reduce my workload a little bit, meaning I will upload my tutorials most likely as a pretty just a raw cut, if you want to call it that, meaning I only cut out unnecessary parts where I answer a question or something else, and don't really do an intro, for example, or I'm not doing too much fancy stuff. I kind of just want to make this a stream snippet rather than a full-blown YouTube video tutorial, because that just requires too much of my time. If I do 2 full-blown cut videos a week. I basically fill out my whole weekend. I need like from beginning to end like almost a full day for a video, or no, maybe not that much, but I also do like every day I do my quick sketch explanation for YouTube. I do it for TikTok, like the quick sketch, and also for the Instagram Reels, which are 3 videos. Then I do my quick sketch, which takes like either minimum 30 minutes. And I also do my voiceover for the YouTube quick sketch video, which can also take like 30 minutes to implement, which then leads me to like starting to actually edit my video from the stream at like, I don't know, like 6 p.m. or something, which is quite late. And then I like barely finish it at like 12 p.m. which it's quite late, and it's pretty close like to deadline. And then next day I do the same. And I think if I just like do a raw cut for one of the videos, which will be my explanation video, I think that'll be better. Because I save some time, and I mean, at least I can enjoy my weekend a little bit, not only have to cut or like edit or like every day for the whole day, but I can like enjoy a little bit of my time, which is also important. Work-life balance. Okay, I think that's it for today. We've discussed how you can make a procedural skin shader, which was quite which is pretty helpful. I think I'm gonna probably save that in my preset Blender file, or like as a material in my library. Sorry. And we worked some more on my character, on Lady Dimitrescu. We filled out her hair some more, so she now has some more volume in there. Of course, there are still quite a few holes, especially on this side. We can see straight through, which we can't really do anymore on this side, which is pretty good. So this side is looking pretty good. We're gonna move like all the way over here until we're finished filling out the volume, and then we're gonna add our second strand to add some more variety. And then the hair is almost done. We're gonna add a few smaller strands as well, like these ones over there. Then that's basically it. That's the full real-time hair. So tomorrow we're probably not gonna work on this. We're gonna create the likeness sculpt of Mark Cuban, which will then be a speed, like I'll upload it to YouTube. No, wait, yeah, to YouTube, to Twitter. No, wait, hold on. I'm gonna do a quick sculpt, put that on my daily channel probably. Also a like video on TikTok and on Instagram. No, I think on Instagram I'll only upload the images. So yeah, that's gonna be tomorrow. If you're interested in that, I'm gonna explain how I do my likeness sculpting, what I look for while I'm sculpting. I'll also start without a base mesh. I'll start from scratch with a sphere. I think that'll be that's like I've realized that when I use a base mesh, like part of the features are already set because of the topology. The topology kind of dictates how the mesh deforms when I use my sculpting brushes, and especially my smooth brush. So I think it kind of hinders me to really capture the likeness of somebody if I use a base mesh, at least this one. So I'll probably not use this. We're gonna work from scratch. I think that's also more interesting because you can see the whole process. The beginning will be actually pretty quick, like setting up the base mesh or the base body or like neck and head, and then we're gonna go into more and more detail. But it'll be fun. We're gonna talk about what to look out for, how I set up my how the volumes are set up, and yeah, that's gonna be tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed today's stream. If you like the stream, you can give the stream a like. If you have any criticism, you can dislike the stream or the video and put your criticism in the YouTube comments. Other than that, maybe I'll see you next time. Hope you enjoyed. If you want to see more, you can subscribe or follow on Twitch, of course. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you maybe tomorrow. Until then, take care. And 3,